Welcome back to Warhammer and welcome aboard the CA Lorraine. Now this French 6.0 tank destroyer is pretty cool, I have to say. It's fun to drive, it's very fast. I mean, the footage that you see in the background is not fully upgraded in terms of mobility, and even the gun is not all that bad when it's stock. But it doesn't get really that much better when you have everything upgraded, but it's pretty damn cool. And as you can see in the background, it's really fast, 62 kilometers an hour top speed that you actually see, and you have a good energy retention, if you will. So even if you corner, you just bomb it around like crazy. We're looking at 27.4 horsepower per ton ratio, fully upgraded. That is just really good. To give you an example, both Hellcat and RE251 just have under 26 horsepower per ton ratio, and the Lorraine 40T 21, the Super Hellcat 20.9, MX13. The actual French light tank has 17.4, so you have 10 horsepower per ton more than the actual French light tank. Your reverse gear is also pretty neat, I have to say, around about 23 kilometers an hour, and that is good. But then, of course, the armor. Well, if you're that light and so fast, obviously you don't have that much armor. It's very well angled, the frontal part, at around about 55 degrees, but it's just 50 millimeters thick. So practically you will never really exceed 90-95 millimeters at best, mostly 80 millimeters. So most things that shoot at you, excluding SPA, will penetrate your frontal plate. The lower plate is thinner, more angled, but yet not something to write home about. The gun mantle is pretty bouncy, I have to say. Maybe a PDS, maybe if you need it, but the rest you should be able to bounce. And when you bounce something from the front, somebody has shot your gun mantle. Your cupola, yeah, actually SPA can penetrate the middle part of it. The side armor, huge profile by the way, 30 millimeters. Top between 20 and just 8 millimeters, so even machine gun fire can penetrate you. So the armor isn't good. What about the gun? Then now it's getting interesting, because we have a 100 millimeter SA-47 L58 cannon with 40 rounds, and no autoloader, and no stabilizer, and you have horrible turret rotation speed, and a long reload. Yeah. This is where it goes all down south. Now, I have played before the Lorraine 40T, the MX50. Those were the first tanks that I was interested in to find out how good the autoloader is, and they are really nice. And after that, the CA Lorraine feels kind of weird, because with the MX50 and the Lorraine 40T, you kind of had the feeling that you're playing with a stock 20 pounder or with a long 88 with kind of, you know, solid shots. But with the CA Lorraine, you kind of feel remembered as if you are firing with a T29 shot, so the American heavy tank, because we're looking at an ace reload of 12 seconds instead of the 6.6 seconds, so you have nearly double the reload. And that just if you have really an ace crew with a fully trained crew, so you have more than double the reload for the same gun at just 0.3 battle rating lower, and without a turret. And I don't think that's really worth it. Now the thing is, why the reload rate is so much longer. Now hear me out, because the tank is actually pretty roomy. It's single piece ammunition, the ammo racks are easily accessible, and you have 2 loaders. And similar tank concepts we find, for example, on the, well, Hori prototype and production, but also on the Ferdinand. And from the pure looks of it, the Ferdinand is equally large from the, you know, fighting compartment. It also has 2 loaders, single piece ammunition, and easy accessible ammo racks. However, there we are looking at a reload for the crew of an ace crew of 6.7 seconds. So also nearly the same as on the autoloaders, and just half what you get on a gun that has no high explosive filler in the pure AP shots, which you are kind of limited to. I mean, technically there is the HE shell, but who talks about this? So the firepower is different. I'm not saying it's utterly crap, but it's not convincing. And it's kind of the balancing factor when it comes to the mobility, because it's really that good. So that was kind of the last kill in this battle, and after that the enemy team just refused to bail out. And so again we are here on Port Novorossiysk, and yeah, of course in front of me there has to spawn a T-92, and I just wanted to show you again the mobility and how fast you actually can go into places. So your playstyle is a bit more like a, I guess, Super Hellcat without a turret. Now I don't think that any one of you remembers my Super Hellcat tank review, but I, you know, rambled about going behind the enemy front line even before it establishes itself and so forth, outflanking the enemy and so forth. But with this tank you actually can do it as well, because it's so goddamn fast. But then again we have the problem with the reload. Now with the usual solid shots, it didn't really feel that punishing that you didn't get the one shots from time to time. But here you have all the drawbacks. You have bad gun traverse of under 6 degrees per second. You have very narrow firing angles. You don't have the reload in particular, and you don't have the one-shot capability. I mean, you still have it, but not as reliable as on some of the other tanks, because sometimes you just have to take the shot before you have to correct your aim as well. So shooting at moving targets is very, very difficult. And then, you know, for example, you kill the driver and the gunner of an enemy tank, but nothing more. Now with the autoloaders you could kill the enemy tank before he could do anything about it, you know, replacing the crew or drive into cover. In this tank both things are the case, and you just don't have the turret to just peek around the corner and retreat in absolute safety. Now you have to roll around the entirety of the corner, and very often you have to retreat, and then it's a Mexican standoff, and that's not nice and whatnot. But if enemy tanks come around the corner like this, you have an easy game. So that's all the good things and the bad things about the tank. It looks like a little bit like an SU-100, maybe a bit like a Jagdpanther, just with the rear section being bigger, because I guess the engine has so much power. Yeah, CAS is a problem. Enemy light tanks are a problem, especially anything that is fast and has a turret. For example, Hellcats. Hellcats are really, really dangerous for you. But in contrast, you also can outflank them if they don't play to their maximum strength. And that is just something that you should keep in mind. It's not that easy to play this tank, but it's hilarious, and I can just imagine how hilariously funny it was to drive around with this tank when the enemy just didn't know how mobile you are, or you were. Another one shot on a Panther. They are notoriously fragile with this huge spawning effect. And there is a whole production or prototype, I don't know, look very similar from the rear. But I hear a tank, and this is, you know, very dangerous if they come on your side. And so he passes, and we one-shot him. Again, there is always ammunition, regardless of how much ammunition you take out. There is always ammunition, and most of the time it blows up, but it's very punishing if it doesn't. So more than often I made the safe shot, you know, going for the gun breach of the enemy and then hunting him down in a 1 versus 1. It's doable. Now to come around the corner here against this Hori prototype or production would be really stupid, to be honest. And you know, if you look at the Hori prototype, which is the premium tank, you kind of think yourself, you know, I'm not actually that much faster, and it's not that much good for a trade-off for the lack of APHE and also the lack of armor that I could have. Because, you know, even SPA could be dangerous in this tank, as I will just demonstrate in just a moment. but gladly not with this SPA, as we one-shot him again. So from certain angles, obviously the AP does tremendous amounts of damage, no doubt about that. And again, I'm not saying that AP is bad, but if you don't one-shot your enemy with that one-shot, you have a problem. And now look what this Coelion is doing to me. Yeah, he hits my cupola and takes out one of the gunner and one of the loaders. And he damages my gun, and there is nothing that I could do. And then watch that shot from the Panther F, because that was a very, very sharp angle on the side armor, which is just 30 millimeters thick. Yeah, and this is the ammo rack that you cannot empty. Now I just wanted to finish off the commentary with this scene. Right from the start, we accelerate, and my goal is to make a very, very brave charge into a certain position, where then in theory could, you know, really disturb the enemy's gameplay. Now again, remember, you pay a lot for the 0.3 lower battle rating. Longer reload, no turret, and yeah, you still have no armor, and the mobility effectively on the majority of battlefields is not that excessively better than, for example, in the Lorraine or the AMX. However, it's a tank that is fun to drive, especially if this is a tank that you get your hands on before you get to the autoloaders, because after that the autoloaders must just feel ridiculous. Again, before I played the CA Lorraine, this 100mm gun felt a bit like a stock 20-pounder without a stabilizer, due to the quick reload of the autoloading mechanism. But then again, you have the drawback that your reload depends much on the crew level, and also if you have the expert qualification or not. And look, there is just one enemy tank to my left, and I go into this ambush position. I call it camping, but you know, I'm actually behind the enemy's lines that have not even established. And yeah, the reason why I don't show you a 7, 8, 9 kill gameplay is now enemies have much more adapted to the quick French tanks, and you just miss the follow-up shot before the enemy can reload. And yeah, this Dicke Max, I mean, how could he have known that I'm already around this corner? Normally no player goes here. I wouldn't advise to go here, because if you miss that shot, or you bounce it, or it doesn't enough damage, you are in trouble. Yes, you could retreat, and you have the ability to do so, but most of the time you just blow your cover, and then mostly that's it, or you get hunted down or disabled and so forth. And yeah, when you're down to 2 crew members, that's really punishing. And finally, the enemy Satz M10 or Panther M10, whatever you want to call it, made his move, and I one-shotted him again by hitting the ammo rack, or I made a crew knockout. Not quite sure about this. Yeah, but at this point in time, I think to myself, well, I guess the majority of enemies is not coming around this corner, despite, you know, they wanting to go to A, and the other capture zones look clear. By the way, a little tip for teams that are in this position around about now. Don't overextend. You have the advantage for the capture zone in your vicinity. Just make a defensive position and wait for the enemy. Because if you overextend, you know, it takes the enemy less and less time to go towards you and to disable you and force teamwork on you. And by the way, look at this shot at the Waffenträger Club Steyr. Yeah, I barely missed the ammunition. Take out the gunner and the loader, I guess. And look at this long reload, and he could actually fire at me, nearly. But thankfully for his bad gun handling, I set him on fire, and he hesitates to fire. I guess I interrupted his reload as well. Now I saw that he had extinguished the fire, and I'm nearly done with my reload, and I aim for his gunner. There we go. So that is our third kill. And again, that's actually it with this battle. Nothing special happens anymore. And you know, I don't want to bore you with spawn camping. So that's it for me today with the CA Lorraine. It's a fun tank, and it's a good first impressions for the 100mm. If you haven't researched the French tech tree line so far, it feels like a weird mixture between a tank destroyer with the bad gun handling and also, you know, the very fast speed and maneuverability like a light tank and the lack of armor. And it is very well designed for aggressive, intelligent gameplay. But if you have certain situations, if you have to push into something, then the tank is just simply not very good. So that's it for me today. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Please give this video a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other on the battlefields of War Thunder.